Have you?
Right. Yay!
And once again, that's the recipe. Toast it for
That
10
was a great
minutes.
chat, gentlemen.
Yeah,
That
it was. It was good.
fantastic
Yeah. We did this last time, didn't we? But the old jokes, the best ones.
We'll get used to the technology eventually.
I think so, Sean. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Oh, shall I put my
Martin.
hat back on?
Yes, please. Yeah.
I think that would help, wouldn't it?
Yeah, put your back hat on.
Right, there we go.
Excellent.
So get right around the right way.
I'm jealous.
Wrong way. I think you should be. It's a bit of a man's hat, isn't it?
It's
yeah. Yes, that's a Wars the Roses General's hat.
That's a general's hat.
Yes, not an ordinary person's hat. I shall be mixed with them. Was it Spare the commoners, kill the nobles?
That's the one.
Which seems reasonable.
Martin, this little live stream that we do on a Saturday night, we call what do we call it, Steve? I've forgotten.
The Devil Wears Primer.
The Devil Wears Primer.
Primark or Primer?
Primer.
Primer. Oh, right. I'd say yes.
Primark, yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
Leather
jolly
change.
good. Yes.
It's a very clever play on words, Martin.
Yes, amusing and witty at the same time. Yes. Excellent.
I don't think it's either of those.
And
but,
neither me or Sean came up with it anyway. So if it is clever, then it's got nothing to do with us to it.
Well, you got to claim it. It's it's all mine.
Yeah. If it becomes popular, then we definitely came up with the idea.
Now, what have we all got in the background? I've got a Bloody Barons poster. See, as we're talking AK-47.
Yeah, as soon as we're talking AK-47, I've got a Confederate flag here. I know it's not very
good. That's all that's going to help. Steve, what did you bring?
A kitchen wall.
Oh, kitchen wall. That's a good idea, isn't it?
Gosh.
The old kitchen wall trick. Yes.
Yeah, I've been dispatched to the kitchen. I'm not in the living room tonight. I'm not allowed.
Oh, right. Well, it's better than
she's banished me to the kitchen.
Right then, AK-47.
Right.
The day is going to be 9th of October, isn't it, Sean?
It is.
And what's the details?
Well, the details. Before we get into the details of the game today, Martin, I just wondered if we could delve into AK-47 and the origins of it. And how you very first... Can you remember how you first came up with the idea of writing a set of rules?
Yes. This is the idea. Originally, wanted to do a set that covered modern warfare, but modern warfare requires so many different vehicles. Like any war that hasn't been fought yet, war gamers want the correct vehicle.
Yes.
In a real war, you use whatever you had. But officially, they'll say, no, the British used the scimitar for this. They used the chieftain for that. The FE432 for this. But you know, if there's a real war lasting more than, say, a month or so, you use whatever you can get. Any old junk. So I was thinking, well, any old junk, that would be Africa without wishing to be... Because even Africa these days is still chaotic, isn't it?
Yes.
You look at places like Nigeria and that, and it's absolutely... It's a horror, isn't it? But so the idea is what could we do which had one tank could cover everybody, one truck could cover everybody, and no fussing with uniforms? Because otherwise you'd have to have some German troops, Dutch troops, Russian troops, British troops. You'd be there all day with troops, which is just ridiculous. But Africa, you can use anything as anything, and that was actually part of the fun of it. Because you can just say it's a tank, and because of the incompetence of a lot of the troops, not trained properly, then no tank's going to be any better than any other because the people controlling it, they don't have the ammo, the technology, the ability. It's not their fault, but they just don't have it, and they're lucky to have any sort of thing that moves. And the other thing is the fact that without making fun of it, you make up countries because Africa's got, I think it's 55 countries in it. And of the 55, I would have thought about 30 in a constant state of chaos. You can go to Ivory Coast, Democratic Republic. All those little countries. They're just horrible. In a war game sort of way, because you go right up north, up to Sudan, and down to South Africa's a bit stable, but Zimbabwe wasn't stable.
No,
but this is why the rules stop at when did they stop? 1990, is it?
1990s.
Yeah, because I don't want people saying I want to use the latest Challenger or T-72s. It's got to be kept low tech, I reckon. Is my mic working all right?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, just to clear, because I was scrolling. But that's the background to it. It's simple, and no one could be, because war gamers are annoying who are too fussy, aren't they, with details?
It can be. And I think it's a case of, it doesn't matter how big the gun was on the tank. If you don't know which button to press to fire it, then it's not much
Well, that's right. And I've got no ammunition either.
That's true, yeah.
I've got a couple of HE rounds. And,
that's right. When you first came up with the idea, did the figures come first or the rules? Or was it
was the idea. Then we spent about 1 year making figures, because we can't launch rules without figures or we'll lose all the sales.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm so wealthy now, or possibly not.
That's why you're wearing that hat.
Exactly, yeah. See, I could afford a hat.
Yes.
With Steve stuck in the kitchen.
That's right, yeah.
You aspire to a hat like this. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Ooh. But no, the idea was
a hat like that.
Well, as I said, but the idea is that if you make militia figures, every army can use them. If you make regulars, every army can use them. And professionals are quite rare, but they're there. So people use whatever they like. And as you know, in the end up people did all sorts of strange things. And I've no problem whatever company people want to use, but it gave them the ability to play the game without being an expert.
Yeah.
Because the idea is to include everybody. And I know some people made armies of spaceships and monkeys and things, but generally you use anything you like. World War II figures, World War I figures. So the original range is about 50 packs, and the rules. I think the rules were very successful. At that time. But
they seem to take the gaming world by storm. I think it was 97 or 96 when the first set came out, and they seemed to take the world by storm, didn't they? There was lots of articles in the magazines, and
I think they did. Yeah. But obviously the rules are worked on by other people like Rob and company as well.
Yeah,
Rob and Les and the usual crowd. They all put into it, because when I do a set of rules, I'm very clever and I come up with the skeleton of it. But they do all the banging around, because every brilliant idea I have, if they knock it down, it upsets me. But I have to come back and improve on it. But that's an ego thing, isn't it? But no, but the other thing with the original AK, it was on a 6x4 table.
Yeah.
But then eventually Peter Pig went on to make tables so you put your junk not on the actual cloth, but on the table.
Yeah.
Because I think I constantly get a bit concerned people have got odd figures on the table and they're not part of the game. Because I used to play a lot of WRG Ancients, which was a 6x4. But your dead men would be on the table, your dice would be on the table, your cup would be on the table, and you weren't quite sure if the unit was going to flank you or if they're dead people.
Yeah, there was no room, was there, really? Because the average table at a show or at a club would be 6x4, and if you're using every spare inch, there's nowhere for your Coke cans and your chips.
No, and people do have junk with them, don't we? Markers, figures, stuff like that. Little Legion says a lot of distortion on the sound.
Oh.
Is mine distorted, or
you're fine? It's all sounding very good to me.
Okay, how are you, Steve?
Do I sound?
Did you hear it? Does it sound right? Yeah, you sound okay.
Yeah.
Oh well.
You're coming across a little bit distorted. You're coming across a little bit distorted to me, Martin.
Oh right.
You're a bit choppy.
Maybe I'm. Is that better? Bit better or not?
It's very Martin, because Steve is in Bristol.
Yeah,
2 hours away, and I'm about 4 hours away, but you're sounding perfect to me.
Okay. Well, as long as I'm sounding okay, otherwise I'll change the mic.
Yeah.
But I've got a little
Here we are.
blue
Legion
snowball mic.
You've got another
Very
mic.
all bright.
You impressed?
Yeah, private.
This is a real it's a rich person's mic. When I'm making speeches to my followers, yes, kill everybody. Yeah, but the idea of AK, I think, was very, very popular. Version 2 wasn't very popular, but I think my theory is a lot of war gamers want a quick pick-up game that's simple. And a lot of war gamers, I think, they buy the set of rules, walk down to the club, and that's the first time they open the book.
Yeah.
So they want, and the original AK is very simple. But the only problem is that some people would spoil it a bit by saying, I found some way around the rules. Because Sean, you went to AK days, didn't you?
Yeah, BricsCon back in
the worst one was poor old Roy. He's dead now, but Roy's army consisted of heavy attack helicopters, 5 of them, and he'd hide behind a village, pop up, shoot with 5 tank shots, then pop down again, so you can't shoot at me. Although, I wouldn't find it very amusing. It just ruined the games. You mean I could win every game? You think, well, that was a good day out. You think, are you mad? The other problem with the original AK, and these problems only come up when people get a bit more into it, is that you had to have a line of sight from base to base. So what people would do is shoot and then hide behind a tree or some random truck or something like that. You think, well, that's not what's intended, but it's what they did. And by winning games like that, you think, well, you've spoiled it. Shame on you.
Well, I think it came in when things started to get a bit competitive. And I know that the BricsCon days that we just mentioned, they were run in a small village called Brixworth in Northamptonshire by Graham Evans.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I think the idea behind them was great to get lots of AK-47 players together.
That was great. Yeah, absolutely.
People came in with a very competitive spirit, didn't they? And
well, Tony Hawkins oversaw it, and he was very good at telling people to behave. So if Tony's out there, thank you to him, because Tony had like a clock and he would umpire things, which is better. Although Brixworth was strange, they're very small tables, weren't they?
Yes, 4x4, weren't they? So
yeah, 4x4. But the second edition of AK, I mean, obviously, I think it's better, but I would say that, wouldn't I? But the second version overcomes a lot of it by figures firing in groups, and the major change with second edition is that it used the same shooting mechanisms, but the number of bases shooting has to be diced for. So if you've got 12 militia bases, you don't get 12 shots. You've got enough men to absorb the casualties, but you still only get about 4 shots.
Yeah.
Whereas 6 professional bases might get all 6 shots. And the other thing with the second version, you don't have to have a line of sight, just unit to unit.
Yeah.
So stop people fiddling around with my man can see your man. And I find that thing very stressful with people because they spend all the time, cake decorating by lining up the soldiers and trying to conceive Bob, and you think, no, stop that.
Yeah. I think, from my experience, Martin, from being there at that transition time between first edition and second edition, I get the feeling that a lot of the old school of AK players, who were the competitive players, who were interested in winning games more than anything, I'm not entirely sure they gave it a fair crack of the whip, because I certainly think it's a better game. I think there's more to it.
Well, I think part of it is if they enjoyed the original game, they say, why change?
Yeah,
it's the old. Yeah, it's an old war gamer thing. People often say it in real life. You think, well, you must be stupid. They say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But then, if that were true, we'd all be driving Model T Fords, because the Model T Ford works perfectly fine. There's no problem with it. But you say, no, you missed the point. You can still improve upon things. But obviously, it's subjective judgment. As I said earlier, the original AK is dead easy, but there are ways to manipulate it and always win.
Yes.
For example, have you all seen the pre-game charts?
Yeah.
Now, there's only about 3 levels in it.
Yeah.
With the 3 levels, some people calculated how many dice to put into it. Therefore, they always get a certain result. You think, well, that spoiled it a little bit. Because, I mean, between sort of 2 friends, you wouldn't have a problem at all. But if you went out for the day and someone just hammered you twice and they did it by the rules, you might think that ain't right. It's, you know, I lost because he popped up with a helicopter and killed me, or I lost because I didn't know whatever. So the original set, they are out there. You still buy them for £5, which is pretty reasonable. So a lot of people are still buying and downloading it because they want a quick knock-up game, which is great fun. But the 2 games are related. The shooting system is the same. The movement system's the same. The difference is the pre-game and the fact that how many can shoot has changed.
Yeah.
But I rather like that mechanism because, as I said, you roll. I think it's something like it's a D6 for malicious number of bases you can shoot. Whereas I said regulars is dice plus 1, is it, or something?
Plus 1.
It's something like that.
Yeah.
But it means
right. I think that created that uncertainty, didn't it? That you could not. So if you had a massive unit of militia, and in the old rules you could fire 12 times, well, you're probably still going to do some damage.
That's
there,
right, on sheer quantity.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Whereas,
it's plus 1 -1, dependent on whether you're professional or malicious.
That makes a huge difference when you got. But big this unit can take the punishment, but it can't give it out, which to me seems appropriate.
Yeah.
Now, because obviously it's not a fantasy game; it's supposed to be historical.
Yeah.
But I mean, all those battles in Africa are so chaotic anyway. But that's why the Rhodesians used to keep beating everybody. Yeah. Because they weren't better than the British or the Americans or the French, but they had a professional army there. Yeah. All the other poor guys given a gun and say, well, good luck, go with it. An AK-47 isn't actually a particularly good weapon. It's just very reliable. It has no accuracy over longer range. Whereas if you've got a well-maintained FN rifle or, one of the European or American weapons, you should outshoot everybody. And especially when you got things like general purpose machine guns, if you haven't got much ammo, you're in all sorts of troubles. So if you're some militia and you got like 12 rounds of ammo, it's not impressive, is it?
No.
But to digress a little bit, because I did an awful lot of reading on it, there's a very good book called My Friend the Mercenary, which is done by a BBC reporter. And I read a lot of how African warfare works. And some of these militias, they're a little bit bonkers. They won't go into action unless you've got lots of RPGs. Because they think it's a wonder weapon. And you think, well, there's no tank there. Yeah, but we've got to have RPGs or the lads ain't doing it. Okay. And he said the problem is apparently there's a little cap on an RPG to keep the firing mechanism safe on the very tip of the rocket. And he said the Africans kept taking the cap off to want to shoot it. And if they slipped in anywhere and the cap just touched something, it would go off. So quite often a man would go prone and there'd be a big explosion. So what happened? Well, he hit the cap on the ground. And time and time again, he tells us, leave the cap on the round so you're ready to shoot. And they said, I'm ready to shoot now. And every time they hit the man in front or knock something, or bang, it'd be a big explosion. You think, well, it's just same with the T-55. It's a wonderful tank, but people are trying to maintain it with hammers and no oil. And you think, well, what are you doing? It's it's not the men themselves, but it's their training, isn't it?
Yeah. Or lack of
quality kit.
Yeah.
You get rubbish, and or we haven't all got a gun, but he's got one. Well, I'll be right then. I'll bring in a machete. Good idea. That'll show him.
Well, just like us three, like them parking a tank outside and saying, "Off you go, then lads, off to war." They'd be like,
Yeah. You've had a week's training. Well, that'll do. Can't be difficult. But also that a lot of them are still told things like this will protect you from bullets. Are you sure? Absolutely. This T-shirt is really good. Excellent. Even because the Taliban, I mean, they're a disgusting bunch of people, but they must be brave to go to war in a Toyota pickup. Because I mean, what's your armor value on that? But you see it out in things like Libya and that when the militia make their own weapons, isn't it? You have a rocket on the back of a car or a moped with a bloke with an RPG on it. I think it's horrific warfare, and you've got no medical backup or stuff like that. So most militias, if things goes bad, they make a run for it. I'm not staying around getting shot to bits.
There's a lot of very good footage on YouTube, actually, and documentaries on YouTube of the Congo and Sierra Leone and the Central African Republic, these sorts of places.
They're appalling troops, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, it is horrific, absolutely, but we aren't glorifying that, are we? No,
we're recognising it's a war to study and maybe learn by that. But the best one's always the chap from the AK-47 holding it over his head, isn't it? You hold it up in the air. That's right. Yeah. I got him. That's right. Have you seen those pictures of the chaps wearing ladies' wigs and tops and that?
Yes. Yeah.
It gives them extra morale. They're wearing women's sequin tops and coloured wigs, aren't they? Well, it'll stop bullets, so you can't knock it. That's right.
That's what the saleswoman said in the shop. Anyway,
that's right. So. Yeah, I'll have that. That's terrific. That is. But no, the idea of AK is try and capture the main army types, but try not to make them too identifiable. Because if you say this is the Ivorian army from the Ivory Coast, people might say, no, they had this or they had that. You say, no, it's just a generic army. And the new AK, there's 20 armies, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think 3 or 4 are Middle Eastern only.
5 Middle East.
Oh, so you've got 15 armies, whereas the original AK, I think, was 5 armies, was it?
Yeah.
But this time, I think we've got exciting armies like the End of Days army. You know, the armies where it's all falling apart and they're more worried about themselves than the cause. I think that's a good thing. Well, I'm going to film an End of Days army. I like the idea of everything just going to, fall to pieces. But no, I think there's more army types in it. But AK-47-1 suits people who want a quick knock-up game between a couple of friends. But all the Peter Pig games, they're very restrictive in that they say how to set up the terrain, the victory points. Because one of my personal hates is arriving and the other chap has set the terrain up. We've chosen the armies. He's deployed the armies. Tells you what the scenario is. And you think, well, what do I do? Can I? No. I've decided for you, Martin. This is your army. I've set it up for you. Thanks very much. I've done this. I've done that. And the one thing you got to do is capture the bridge. Say, no, bridge. Is there any other way of winning? No. You just got to have your foot on the bridge at the end of the game. It's like playing paintball, isn't it? I do hate that. And at least in AK, you should be able to play it again and again. It should be a little bit different. Because some rules, you get 5 scenarios. And if you play 4 times a year, you're sorted. But I play a lot of war games. Before this crisis, I was playing 160 games a year, which is excessive amount. That's full battles, 164 battles, or maybe more. But I don't know. I mean, how many games do you play a year, Steve? How many battles do you play a year?
So I think depends if I do tournaments as well, which I don't do as many as I used to, and I go to a local club once a week. I would probably say at a max about 80.
80 is a huge amount.
That would be at absolute max.
A lot of people I chat to often say, "Yeah, we play 5 games a year."
Yeah.
And they play 5 different rule sets. Yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are the same. I mean, I know a lot of people that literally play once a month.
Yeah, and they say that'll do, and we play a different rules every time. So AK-47 is far too complicated because we haven't read it till we sat down.
Yeah,
and then we want to, and then other people, they often sit down for the first game. They want to use everything, don't they? I want tanks, aircraft, warships, mines, dogs, tunnels. And that's our first game. They say, well, it's a bit complicated, isn't it?
Yeah, we're the first 5 minutes. They're like, what? Hey?
Yeah, they say, well, let's put everything on the table. Yeah. It's a danger. But also, a lot of folks, more so in America, they make it more of a social occasion. because they travel a bigger distance. So if they travel 50 miles, they want a meal, a second meal, a game, you know what I mean, a good chat. Because when Sean comes down, we play what, 4 games, Sean?
At least I would say,
yeah. That's quite intense.
Yeah.
But if you go to Historicon in America, the big shows, they often they're residential, so they'll play the morning, afternoon, and the evening, and therefore they don't care if a game lasts 6-7 hours. Was it a tournament, Steve? What do you want? 3 hours maximum?
Or less than that. No, normally,
you won't want a 7-hour tournament game.
No. I think most of them are 2 hours. I think max.
Because you got to have your lunch, do a second game, and get home.
Well, a lot of them they squeeze 3 games in, but for most of the tournaments. So and you obviously got to have your lunch and your breaks in between as well, and still get in good time as well. So
and most British shows where there's a trade stands about 4 o'clock. Big games are packing up, aren't they?
Yeah.
You can't go to game at 4 o'clock and say, "Well, should we have a game of this?" They say, "No, we got to travel and go." Whereas in America, they'll stay up to the small hours in the morning, which is brilliant.
But it's always States, Martin.
Pardon?
Did you ever take AK-47 to the States?
Yeah, I've done Historicon 8 times. I've done California Strategicon 4 times, and Guns of August once. So we've done a lot of different shows in America, and I've been to some local American war games clubs as well. So, but it's very, very different over there. Very different. Often a lot of the games, I mean, these are generalities, but often they're so pleased we sit down with friends and soldiers that the rules don't matter.
Right.
But I personally really dislike it where you got 1 alpha male. It tells you what everything's doing. And you just sit there saying, "Can I fire my gun now?" Not yet. Okay, I'll wait till. What about now? No, you've just been shot. What? Well, the other one is roll a dice. What do I need? No, just roll a dice. 6. No, it's not good enough. What? Yeah, I mean, people mean well, but once if they don't let me choose my army or deploy as I want, it's not a lot of point being there, is there?
No.
Just to come back then, Martin, because we mentioned that there's a.
Are you going back on topic, Sean?
Yes, I'm going to keep you on. It's very difficult, I know.
Yeah, that's right.
But we're having a game stay in October, and I do apologise to Steve that it was a weekend that he was unavailable. Because Steve is a new member of the RFCM fold.
You've upset him already.
He dragged me in.
I would take umbrage, Steve. Yeah. Yeah.
As well as
sending me all these pictures, Martin. You keep sending me all these pictures. Oh, you like Vietnam games, don't you? Oh, you like pirate games, don't you? Oh, you like.
Yeah. We're not going to play yet.
He's denying it all.
Yeah, you can look but don't touch.
Yeah. He knows what I'm like. That's the problem.
But no, I think the 9th of October should be good, Sean. But you put the effort to organise, so thank you. But maybe it's helped by the fact that Battlefield Hobbies.
Yes.
This new generation of shops are sheer luxury, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
Steve, have you been to Battlefield Hobbies?
No.
Well, they've got a whole floor full of games tables.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, that just didn't happen, did it?
Yeah, we got one down our way. Bristol Independent Gaming, big.
Yeah, and they've got games tables.
They've got games tables. Yeah, they do a lot of.
That's heaven, isn't it? We never had that when I was a lad.
No.
All we had was scurvy
and
rats. But because war game shops always used tiny little holes, didn't they?
Yeah,
very dark,
very dark and dingy.
Yeah, 1 in, 1 out, and you could always get a bit of abuse if you wanted.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Yeah.
I come to buy some figures. Why? Sorry. Yeah.
Buy some and hurry up and bog off. You know?
Yeah, that's right. It's your sort coming in here, buying stuff. Yeah, it's like being at the school sweet shop, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But no, the AK Day I think is brilliant. But also I think there's a square bashing day, isn't there? Simon does.
Yes.
That's worked well. But the other thing is that AK isn't gridded though, is it? Which is a shame.
you're going to need a tape measure, Martin. I know it's a bit of a anathema to you at the minute.
It is, yeah. Well, one arm length.
Now,
The bigger the hand you got, the bigger the measurement. It's one hand distance. Oh, look, I'm really close. Yeah. No,
that's about an inch. Yeah, that dude.
Yeah, there you go. That'll do.
Yeah.
But the thing with AK, because it's only measured, I think it's from unit front to unit front. That means the individual parts can all still shoot. And because the range, I don't know, tank range, it's big, 26 inches or so, isn't it?
Yeah, about that.
The bigger the range, the easier gaming is because there's less fussing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think a tank can fire 26 inch and infantry about 10 inches.
You've got a good memory.
It is, yeah. So well, there you go. See, it's infantry 10 inches, which is still quite generous, isn't it?
Yeah.
So and movement must be what, 6 inches or something?
Yeah, is it you dice for it, don't you think? Is there a...
Yeah, but I think it might be like +2 or take 1 or double it or something like that.
Yeah. It's a genius system anyway, whoever came up with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think wargaming sort of the 6 inches stands in all wargaming, isn't it? Every set of rules, the 6 inches is about right. But if you have things like some of the ancient sets, you move like 2 inches, that's just asking for trouble, isn't it? Because if I add an inch onto it, that's 50%. Because if you cheat 1 inch in AK, no one cares too much. And you'd say, well, okay. But that's why grids can be useful, isn't it?
Very useful.
But maybe AK will be done as a grid game one day.
Back to the games table. So at the moment, I think we're just over. I think we're about 10 or 11 players, but we've got around about 14 who've expressed interest.
Good.
Which I think is really good. So, and we're meeting at the Battlefield Hobbies, and we're going to play a game in the morning and a game in the afternoon because that'll give us plenty of time for maybe spend some money.
If it's an odd one, he can play on his own, can't he?
Well, I thought that'd be all right. You can have a solo.
You're on table 7 on your own. Good luck. That's right. Hope it goes well. Right.
Or if not, they can play with Sean.
Oh, well,
no, I'd rather be on his own, I think. That's right.
Well, we got another comment, gents. We got another comment from Bill Roy.
No, hi, Bill. Or Roy. But I think the thing is that AK would be a lot of fun, Sean, if it was 2 aside, 2 on 2. But are you doing it all 1-on-1 or what?
I think we'll see how it goes. I'm very easy about it, Martin, to be honest. And I think one of my favourite things about any Peter Pig set of rules is playing 2 versus 2.
I do like 2 versus 2, yeah.
So maybe singles in the morning and doubles in the afternoon, maybe.
Yeah. Well, the good thing with a 2 aside is it tends to even out the stress, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Don't you think, Steve, it evens out stress that we've got 2 people on the same side?
Yeah, definitely.
Because you got someone to talk to.
Unless you're playing with Sean.
Yeah, let's not go on about Sean. Poor old Sean. Yeah, right. No, but 2 aside is actually very pleasurable, I find.
Yeah,
because you're enough to command, and yet you can still agree on a plan. Or obviously you don't be stuck with someone who just tells you the plan all the time. That's annoying. That's like playing. Have you ever played something like badminton where there's one really keen player going, "Come on, we can win! Come on!"
I think we've all played games with people like that.
Yeah, and you see, it's a game. No, it's not a game. It's
you only play with that place once, though, don't you, Robbie?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's like it's the proud dad on the Fast Show, isn't it?
Yeah.
He takes off his son and says, "I'll do it." That's right. I'll do the egg and spoon, you idiot.
It's nice to have somebody else, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think the AK day should be fine. They're always odd people, but that's sometimes where pairs can help level it a little bit, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Because a partner saying that's enough, or put your clothes back on, you've done that, or something like that. Yeah.
And there's a couple of new as well, Martin. We've got Julian, who seems very keen, and
is he coming along?
Julian's coming, yes. So
good.
Been contributing on the.
Is Steve going, or is Steve not busy that weekend? Oh, unlucky Steve. I didn't want to mention that. That's right.
He has rules now, and he started.
I'm not bitter at all, Martin. Not
No,
at
let's
all.
not go on about it. Yes,
No,
right.
let's not go on about it.
Steve wants to use the vengeful, unhappy army. That's right. We hate all the.
Steve is driving up to my house next weekend, and he's going to have a game of
what are you
AK.
playing then, Steve? Bloody
I'm
Baron?
We're going to be playing AK. We're going to play Bloody Barons and AK-47, hopefully.
2 different rule sets in one day.
That's the plan.
That's asking for chaos,
That's the
isn't it? Yeah. Well, tanks for one game, but not for the other. So only in Bloody Baron, not in the other one. That's right.
There's tanks for Bloody Barons and bows and arrows for AK-47.
Well, he did say armour, so I bought some armour. What are you doing? But yes, the AK-47 is that it's just ticked along over the years. And as I said, the early edition does sell very well for the reasons we discussed. But I would say, and wouldn't I, that the second set is much, much better because it irons out all the little bits that Peter would twist around and spoil. Because really you want every army to have a pretty equal chance. But also every army has to have a character, doesn't it? Like it's got loads of junk or... Although I do notice for the coming AK Day, a lot of people have chosen the United Nations Intervention Force, haven't they?
Well,
because they're going to get Western kit, don't they?
They've wanted to, but I've restricted it, Martin. So as far
as nice one, I like it. I like it.
Everybody's going to have a different army.
I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people say
that's a good idea, mate.
Yeah, because the intervention force okay, but they only get 4 units. Unit number 5 is a liability unit of like socks or pants in trucks or whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't want people saying, "Oh, I'm buying this. I think I can have something or other in it." But that's the other reason why it needs to stop at 1990. Because after 1990, you're going to be bothered by people who want to dribble on about the latest bit of kit, don't they? With infrared sights or night vision or no, just don't bother. It's a tank. Yeah. Because the troops on the ground would just say it's a tank. Yes. And they'll say, "What were you fighting against?" A tank. Well, what model was it? 255A? No,
they don't really care about that, do they? They care about these massive, big armored vehicles coming trundling towards them.
But often war reporters, they would call a BMP or BRDM a tank. That's right. And war gamers will ring ITV News at 10 and say, "No, it's not a tank. It's not a personnel carrier." They go, "Yeah, it's a tank." Exactly. Did you notice that when you watch the news and there's all these foreign conflicts?
Yeah.
And they say, "Oh, the Chinese have got tanks." Actually, no, Chinese do use tanks against civilians, don't they? That's slightly different, yeah. Because the Chinese tanks at Tiananmen Square, were they sort of T-55, T-72 sort of knockoff, weren't they? That man had a carrier bag, didn't he? So I would, you got to watch him. Because he could have anything in that bag, couldn't he? A sort of spray can or a stick.
The other good thing about the AK Day is that we've been sponsored by Geek Villain.
Yes, they do really nice mats, don't they?
They do
really nice mats, yeah.
Have you two got their mats or not?
I've got one.
I've got one, yeah.
I got a couple of them, and I think the material's really good, isn't it?
Yeah, very nice.
Because you can lie under it and put it over yourself. And
exactly. So you get stuck in a car on your way home, we're saying, wrap yourself up.
What am I today? Rock around?
So a lucky participant of the day will be going home with that from a raffle. So
how big is the mat, though, Sean? How big is it?
Well, I'm afraid it's 6x4, Martin. So no, I know.
AK is a bit weird, isn't it? It was the only reason AK is 7x5 is it was 6x3, is it?
6x3.
Yeah, the reason it's so wide and not very deep is to make sure people are in contact straight away. To stop the gamers who have a super unit like the lap of the table, scooping up all opposition. But if it's 6 foot wide, a unit on the right flank will never get to the left flank in time for the end of the game. And that's part of the design of it. So when you set up, you're in combat because there's nothing worse than trying to lay out a battle plan. And the other guy just watches it and says, "Oh, I just moved my whole army to the left." There you go. and there's no point in a battle plan. In AK, you should have a battle plan, and what's on one wing will affect the game, and what's on the other wing will affect the other part of the game. Yeah. So that's why it's not very deep, because once you got 3 foot apart, you're almost in tank range anyway.
Yeah.
So you deploy. I don't know what it is. Is it 9 inches in or something like that?
Something like 6, 9 inches. Something.
Yeah. So once you've done that, turn 1, you should have tanks in range, and by end of turn 2, you should be in range, and you preclude what's on the other flank coming to you. Because another one of my pet hates is games where it doesn't matter how you deploy, you can change it all anyway. It happened to me in is it Fire and Fury where you do massive moves, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you roll a 10, you're like, whoa. I'll play games like that, and it's not meant to be like that, but you've got this marvelous right flanking thing that you plan carefully, and you risked everything on it. And the other guy says, "Oh, so I've moved my army across. There you go. They're there now." It's just annoying.
Annoying. Steve has chosen the religious army, haven't you, Steve?
Oh yeah, it's not a very good army, but I think, Steve, it affects the other player more, doesn't it? I think it tends to damage the other guy more than help yourself.
I never worried if it's the best army or the worst army.
Yeah,
I just go for what I like.
Well, it's a weird army in that the best things you get, Steve, hurt the other army. It makes their men run away, disappear, and lose enthusiasm. Well, not a lot of it improves your own weaponry, but it's a fear type thing. My army, I'm going to use the End of Days army, is very good, but it'll sit still for the first couple of turns to see how things are going. And if it's looking like it's going quite well, they join in. If it's not looking good, they'll just sort of slip away to tobacconist or something like that. What army are you going to use, Sean?
Well, I've got a dictator army. That's what I've always used.
Oh, firm but fair. I've got it, but I explained it first. No, dictatorship army is not bad, but I think you've got unreliable militia.
Yeah.
Because where you keep nagging them, they're getting a little bit fed up. So you got to buy them off, I think. So, but every army has something to it, which is, I think if you want to read all the lists, you get a theme. But as I said, Steve, your religious army, if you can achieve 3 games, you'll damage the other person, which annoy the hell out of them. Because a lot of war gamers, once you kill one man off their army, they'll say, "Oh, I can't win now. I'm fed up. I don't care at all." That's always a way to lose someone in a game, isn't it? I've shot one of your men. Well, I didn't expect to lose anybody. What sort of game is this? Because the trouble with some games is that if there's no proper victory conditions, you might have to sit on your baseline, right, and wait for them to come to you. Say, "Will you come in?" No, you come here. And it used to happen a lot in some of the ancient battles. You'd wait, because once they advanced, they're out distancing the other troops. And if there's no objectives, you think, well, I'll sit here and bring it on. That leads me, my other bugbear is defenders who want more men than the attacker, isn't it?
Yes.
I want to defend with more men and I'm dug in. Yeah, that'll work all right. I'll be right across so you get yourself slaughtered. But AK is defense attack, which I think is probably the best thing to do. It makes you get on to do stuff.
See, myself and Martin had quite a fun game at one of the weekenders a couple of years ago playing Western. I don't know if you remember this, Martin.
Possibly.
But I was actually playing, it was a doubles game. And
I remember it, yeah, in the lounge.
I was playing with somebody else at the time on my side, 2 other people. And we had a very bad first turn where out of 4 or 5 units, I think 2 had got destroyed. And my partner threw the towel in.
So I'm not having that. Yeah.
So Martin,
I don't need to win. I'm going to stop now.
Yeah.
Well, the idea in a lot of the games we develop is that you shouldn't know who's won until near the end of the game. Not because it's random, but the victory points are a little bit randomized. Because you don't people working out that I've won 31 points to 29. Therefore, my troops will all stop now and dig in. You want people to say, "Well, I better be pretty sure I've won to continue." Because if the victory points are too rigid, you can say, I've got enough of what I want. I'm just going to stop there. And you think, well, that's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And also,
you should press on. You think you've won.
Both sides. So the attacker's victory conditions or the points that they get are different to how the defender will.
Yeah, and so it should be, because they got a different set of tasks, haven't they? Their job isn't just survive. Their job is to take and hold it. I think victory criteria should be different for the two sides, but it should also be very comprehensive, because complexity at the end of the game isn't a major problem. If every turn is complex, and it's a waste of time. But if at the end of the game you've got about 20 criteria, that's absolutely fine. And there should be more than one way to win a game. You shouldn't say, well, it's my old thing about I've got my foot on the bridge, therefore I've won. But you need to say, well, you've killed so many, you've won. You take so much ground, you've won. You beat the hell out of my whole left flank, you've won. It should be, and also it should be graded into like won a little bit, won a lot, huge massacre. So you could lose the game. If you lose by a tiny bit, you can say, well, I lost by a tiny bit. Because, I mean, I don't know, Steve, you find it in tournaments, but if you run out of time, people waste time saying, I was just about to kill your flank. I was just about to launch a brilliant attack. You say, well, yeah, but I was also going to just roll double six. Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Going back to that Western game, though, we stuck it out, Martin, and we still lost the game. I mean, I'm not saying that we turned it
closer. Yeah,
but it was a lot closer, and it was a lot of fun, wasn't it? So regardless of the
rules do have to try and keep players happy, because it is a game after all. But that's why a lot of the more recent rules you allowed re-rolls. So even a lot of the newer sets, if you're doing a fight, you can re-roll so that you avoid the extremes. So if you only get 2 successes out of 12 dice, you can re-roll. And it averages out the successes. It also means it's your own fault if you re-roll and make it worse.
Yeah.
Although most war gamers often think that you get 10 out of 11 successes, and if you only get like the average number, they say, "Well, that's not very good, is it?"
Yeah.
But yeah, re-rolls are a big feature now, just to keep people happy, which is it's a valid concern, isn't it? People enjoy the game. And that's also why we quite like saving rolls and things like that. Because the worst one I ever saw was some chap at the AK, nice chap. I don't know if you know, Steve, but AK basically works is 2 dice for the shooter, 1 dice the target. So there's 3 dice involved. Now his argument was, why doesn't one player roll all 3 of the dice and then just tell the other guy the result? You say, well, that's not a game, is it? I could go play bowls on my own and tell you how it went for you. You lost. Oh, that's right. But the good thing with 2 dice versus 1 dice, it really does average out rather well. It's unlikely that 3 dice will all be at the extremes. So if you've got 3 dice, that's going to be 6 times 216 possibilities, and 216 possibilities will often lump into the middle somewhere. That's why in AK, if you got a difference of, is it a difference of 1? It's some sort of pinning down or something. I think you got a difference of 3 to kill someone, isn't it? Which is very difficult to do, but it's still possible, because you always want things to be possible, don't you? If I roll double 6 and you roll a single 2, then you should be dead. Because it makes a game, doesn't it?
That's right, yeah.
You don't want people saying, I know I'm safe here, because that's very unrealistic, isn't it?
It is. Let's move on to Bloody Barons then, Martin, because you've got a lovely poster behind you.
I've got a poster here, so I'll move this way.
It's very nice.
Yeah. We make these little banners to take round to when we go to shops and put games on, because I'm trying to get more people into historical gaming, because fantasy gaming has the upper hand, doesn't it?
Yes.
People, I think a lot of people, they just haven't seen historical gaming because it's not very well marketed, is it?
No, not really. No, it's all old men, isn't it, playing it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and also I think sometimes we can make it a bit too daunting by saying you've got to research an army, and people saying, well, that sounds like hard work.
Yeah.
But Bloody Barons is on a zone. I mean the new version, Sean.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, right. The new version, there's 16 zones on a tabletop. Now, the thing I like about that is it doesn't matter what size the zones are. There's just 16 of them. So, and as a general, you just say left flank advance. You don't say left flank advance a few inches, how far you are from the enemy, which is quite normal in rules, but want to avoid it. Because if you're the general, there's nothing worse than a commanding officer keeps fussing. I've experienced it myself. Have you men remember to brush their teeth? Yeah, absolutely fine. And I have played rules where they say you got to have a special card to reload. You think, yeah, I should have told the lads to reload. It was idiots. Or turn around and face the enemy. Oh, there they are. But no, the Bloody Barons is the reason I like it, and obviously I'm promoting it, is because as a general, you just tell men to advance, go forwards, go backwards, go sideways. But Bloody Barons, it's easy to go forwards and backwards. Well, you played it, Sean, haven't you? But Steve, you've read the rules, though.
I read the rules, yeah. I haven't played yet.
It's more difficult if you want to go sideways, as I think it should be. But to go sideways, you need 3 or 4 dice and score 11, which is not always easy. And if it goes wrong, you're all out of order because medieval troops in Wars of Roses just go forwards, basically. That's it. Yeah. But the thing with Bloody Barons is you've got to punch out the zones. And if you can take enough zones, you'll win the game. Because any army that gives up the land it's standing on starts to fall apart. Men want to hold their ground or take their ground. If I start falling back, I'm going to make a run for it. And the rest you can stay and die. It's not a problem at all. I'll go back and get the cakes I'm burning or whatever it is. But it's we'd say it's a good game. It's a quick game, isn't it, Sean? 2 hours?
Yeah.
There's no measuring. You just say, and the other thing, Steve, is you move the whole zone, not individual units. You say this whole bunch or ward or battle, whatever you want to call it, they're all going to go forwards. So in real life, you'd say, right, Duke of Northumberland advance, and they advance. Duke of Northumberland advance again. Yeah, he's gone forward again. You don't say, can you send 1 unit forward, hang back with the others? And also in Bloody Barons, you don't depict individual men with individual weapons. They're clumps of men. And you assume there's a component which is archers and a component which is hand-to-hand. And it's not the general's job to say, well, make sure the archers shoot, make sure the men with hand-to-hand are careful not to poke anyone in the eye or something like that. It's generalised deliberately. So your decisions are basically on what lumps do you send forward, what lumps do you hold back, and when do you attack. And that's basically the whole game.
I think one of the issues with Wars of the Roses rules, Martin, previously, or the other rule sets that are out there, is that it allows these clumps of men to maneuver all over the battlefield in these tight little, almost regiment blocks.
Yeah, Bloody Barons 1s did that a fair bit. Yeah, and that's probably normal in gaming, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
But my problem is, and obviously you only get my opinion here, I don't like the idea that any set of rules can be called Wars of Roses by making a few changes.
Yeah.
So you can say these Napoleonic rules, where you can play Wars of Roses if you change them. You think, well, the rules must be so loose, they don't reflect the period of warfare. Wars of Roses warfare is on foot, it's at close quarters, and it's not sieges now, it's fighting people right in the face with small mobile armies. There are no proper sieges, there are no front lines. It's my army and your army marching around. When we smack into each other, we fight. And whoever loses, the nobles die, the commoners get spared usually. Because I will say, Wars of Roses commanders, I admire them greatly because so many of them died. Without being rude, Robert E. Lee and Ulysses Grant didn't risk themselves in the front rank. They lost thousands of men, which maybe they had to. But they didn't say, I'll go down the front to see how it's all going. I feel like Armistead and that did get shot to pieces. They didn't have to be in the front rank. With Wars of Roses, if you didn't fight in the front rank, members say, well, we're not very interested. Me and the lads were off somewhere else. And I think that's good of them as generals.
That's one of the realistic aspects of the rules, actually, because your generals can die, can't they?
And they should die. And if they won't fight the front rank, your formations will not do well. But the other thing with Bloody Barons, which is very unusual, is the cavalry aspect. Cavalry and bloody barons don't just sit in the front line. You muster them, send them out for a big smash charge. They either fail or succeed, and then they rally back, or you never see them again. English Civil War is the same in a way. The cavalry are there to punch a big hole somewhere. Whereas if you just line them up as part of your front line, the cavalry would be uncomfortable doing that. It's not what they don't hold ground. They take ground and smash big holes. But infantry would do all the grinding work, isn't it? So bloody barons and cavalry turn up, they do their charge, they do all their fights, then they're moved off table again, they're done. But cavalry fights are very rare in Wars of Roses. There's one near you, Sean, isn't there? What's the early battle? We charged up a hill. Blore Heath, yeah. He charged up the hill once and it goes horribly wrong. So he says, I know, I better do the same again. So he goes to the hill again, gets himself killed. Then his sub-commander goes, I think we're doing the same again. And then half the cavalry say, we're fed up with this, we're off. What do you mean you're off? Well, we're going. Well, thanks a lot. That's right. Because I think there's a cross to Audley, isn't it, halfway up the hill? We got slaughtered.
The road from here,
But I mean, if your leader's going to get killed doing stupid things, then at least he took responsibility for it, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, I've got a stupid idea. Let's do this. We're going to charge uphill at enemy archers.
Exactly.
Yep, think so. That's right. Yeah.
Well, at least he did it, you know. I mean, not like in some of the other generals in time. You lads go off and do that.
Yeah.
Even though it's an absolutely terrible idea. I'll just
that's what modern generals can do, isn't it? It's Italian generals in the desert, isn't it? I've sent the men out, dropped them off. We pulled the trucks back. Hope they do all right. Give me a ring later on the day. Tell me how it went. Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, but Wars of Roses, I think it deserves its own set of rules because it's nothing like 100 Years' War, Renaissance. It's very, very different because I don't think bloody barons can be really used for 100 Years' War, those sort of things. You can't do a Henry V with it because the cavalry would pop up. I mean, if you had to do it, you'd mangle it so much. You'd say, well... it's like when you use they found a great set of rules, let's say crossfire, which is a great set of rules, but people say, oh, I'm using crossfire for Vietnam and Napoleonics, and because they enjoy the mechanisms that make the rules work, and I can't blame them for that. But sometimes you got to say the one thing is Peter Pig rules, they're similar in that a 5 or 6 is good news and 1 is bad news, but each one has its own set of mechanics, doesn't it, Sean? I mean, they're all different. You can't say, well, American Civil War seems the same as PBI. And the only thing that's constant in the rules we do is that they're always 6-sided dice because they're the ones I understand. And I would say, mathematically, you can achieve just about anything you want with 6-sided dice because you get that clustering effect, which if you use a 10-sided dice, you get 10 different results for the 3. Was if I have to roll 6 dice, we're pretty sure the number 4, 5, 6 on 6 dice would be about 4. If you get all 6 successes, you've got shocked. If you get 1 success, you're shocked. Whereas if you're using something like a 10-sided dice, well, a 1 or a 10 is as common as a 5 or a 6. So you're just saying, well, random will outmode anything you do, whereas the dice should be modified to what's going on rather than the total decider. And besides, I think tactile, you see, Wars of Roses, it's nice to roll a bunch of dice. If I roll 7 dice, I feel quite good about it. 1 dice, it's sad and I don't feel happy with it.
It's not.
But sometimes we use 1 dice in rules where we want the result to be totally random. So if you want to take a random result, just use 1 dice. You got 6 results, all with equal rating. If you're doing a fight, you want to be rolling about 8 dice and say looking for 5 or 6, so it evens out. But that's why things like PBI, we've got 6s of kills, which you know they're going to be erratic, and the number of 6s on about 7 dice can be all over the place. But that's deliberate, so that people get on with fights without saying, I've worked it out carefully. I mean, I don't know, because Steve, you're not as elderly as I am. Did you ever play WRG 4th edition?
No.
Well, if you played something 4th edition at the time, absolutely brilliant. We all played them. You could work out what was going to happen, and you think, well, that's not right, because you want things to go badly right or badly wrong. I would walk in and say, well, I'm not risking that because I've worked out what's going to happen. And the most tedious thing is players working every single bit before a fight because they think they can work it all out. And they say, "Oh, I'm not going to go in because of the sun shining me on." Whereas at least in Bloody Barons, you say, "Well, it may not look that good, but I got a chance."
Yeah,
got a chance.
That's what you're looking for, isn't it? That's what you're looking for in a game.
Yeah.
That's the type of game you want to play. You won't have a chance. You know what I mean?
The operative word is game, isn't it? It's a game.
Yeah.
I don't want to be beaten into the dust by someone who says, "Well, I've worked out it carefully." Oh, have you?
As you said before, you just don't want to sit down and before you even start playing a game, just take one look and go, "Well, what's the point?"
I think I give up now.
Exactly. So what is the point? You know what I mean?
Let's go.
You want to play a game. You want to play a game. You want to sit down for a couple of hours and have fun. It doesn't matter who wins or loses. You want to have fun.
It's also why you don't want people to try and win it by designing the killer army.
Yeah, definitely.
That's another horrible thing.
Yeah.
Or the player that set up everything for you when you get there, which is the thing I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
You say, well, there's only one way this game can go. And the worst ones are these free Kriegspiel types, whereby they say, right, Austrian Napoleonic infantry, here's the old guard. Well, the old guard will always win, so they're destroyed. Oh, okay. These are British infantry, they always win, but they're destroyed. These say, well, you're just talking it through now. We're not having a game. And I played some of those, and they're just awful because people say, no, you got to use you got to do exactly what they did in the actual battle. Well, I'm not reenacting it, am I? I want to play a game of soldiers. Yeah. But you want people to stick to the tactics of the time, but to have a little bit of thinking. And it's nice to gamble come off, isn't it? Yeah. So the proper gambler, not just say, I've calculated it all. It's not good. I'm out of there.
Talking of which then, Martin, a week tomorrow, we're gathering.
We are. In Newbury, which is now the new site of the Bosworth battlefield.
Yes.
I think the Battlefield Trust thought it was on Ambion Hill, Steve. Then they've had a new site. We reckon it's actually Newbury. It's just off the M27 because it gave the Lancastrian troops better routes of movement. I think the Yorkists they stop at the Winchester services, didn't they?
That'll be the one, yes.
Yeah. Well, you got the troops stopping at the services so they can use the facilities. Because it's embarrassed to go for a wee if other people are looking, isn't it?
That's
right. Look, I'm having a wee. But no, I've walked to Bosworth Field, and it's a big flat thing. And I think they let us research. Have you all seen the Time Team special on it?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Well, as Steve pointed out, the Time Team special, they found all the cannonballs, didn't they? And therefore they worked out where the shooting that took place. They found some remnants and, old polystyrene cups and stuff like that. But it does make more sense what it is now. And we're fighting it on the newer version where it should be. And luckily, Bloody Barons was written after that research was done. And we're using the version from the Osprey campaign book. Because the way I'm not an expert on it, but my reading of it is that the two armies moved along the old Roman road because you can't move Wars of Roses armies cross country. In modern army, you just don't move across country. That's why even from the Germans and the Russians still want roads. And at Bastogne, the Germans wanted Bastogne, didn't they?
Well, that's right.
War games would say, I'll just drive through the forest. You say, no, you can't. You need a road. But the Wars of Roses Bosworth, they meet along the old Roman road. So I get the idea in the medieval times they're rubbish at making new roads or anything. Obviously, it was not paying much sort of road tax, whatever. But they meet along the road, deploy across the road, and just smack hell out of each other for a few hours, which is very nice. And that's what we'll be doing. But on the actual day, Sean, we run the battle twice, if that's reasonable.
Yep.
And on 2 tables. Because if there's too many players, they don't get much action. So no one wants to be Stanley sitting on the hill just saying, I'm going to watch the battle. It's going really well. Unless you have sort of gambling. But yeah, it'll be on 2 tables, 4 foot by 3 foot tables. I think it'll be good fun. I don't know. Sean, have you actually played a game of Bloody Barons yet or not?
No, but again, he's coming up next Saturday to.
Oh, right. Well, good luck with that, Steve. It's not going to end well, is it? But it's the winning that matters, not taking part.
But there's about 10 or so versions, isn't there, Martin, on that battle day? I think there's lots of other groups. And
there's other rule systems. I think it's about 10, which is a really good idea. Not much to compare, but just to contrast and say, yeah, here it is being. And the other good rule sets look great too. They're all great stuff because it gets the soldiers out moving around, and you can actually walk around and see what the other games are doing. But the thing is, Sean, some are using 28, which is the wrong size for Wars of the Roses. Because wouldn't you think, Sean?
That is more
ridiculous. It can't be done. Because Steve, the joke is, as Sean told you, the joke is Sean put on the Battle of Towton in 15mm, but was informed by a very clever war game that can only be done in 28mm.
Oh, right, okay.
Because otherwise, it's just a game of soldiers. Whereas in 28 minutes, it's like being there. It really is. Yes. On his desert cloth and his Mordor hills. Yeah. But that's what puts me off wargaming, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The pompous ass. Did you punch him, Sean, or not?
No. I just smiled and waved.
And he fell down the stairs 3 times. What a clumsy bloke. That's right. Something the matter with him. That's right. Well, there's 28 mil. But no, there'll be different sizes at the day. Yeah.
Yeah. But before we finish, Martin, because I'm really looking forward to that day. It's going to be excellent. We've got Mexican Revolution coming to an end, I think, aren't we?
Yes, sadly, the rules should be out in end of August this year.
Yeah. I'm not listening. I'm not listening.
Well, the unusual thing is they're probably just going to be PDF, and also it might do print on demand one. But the trouble is, when we order rules in such large quantities, we physically run out of space. It means the other rules aren't selling very well. But the thing is, Steve, we've got about 20 sets of rules in print, and each one's got a few hundred copies up in the workshop.
Yeah,
that's it'll protect you from air attack. But and I think a lot of people like PDF these days, don't they? Because the price and that.
I don't. I hate PDF, to be honest. I like print.
That's because you're old, Steve. You're not with the young guns. Yeah. So for young people, I put in words like faction, awesome.
I haven't got a printer.
Yeah. What's a printer? That's right. Yes, my lord.
Computer. Right. What's a PC? I haven't even got a computer.
Yeah. You say a machine. But no, there'll be PDFs and they'll be sort of print on demand type thing. But we're looking forward to getting them out. We'll still finish off some little odds and ends on them. But you'd recognise them from other rule sets. They got some interesting things in them. Some new ideas, as always, like the dismounting, the asset system has been enlarged, and all sorts of other bits and pieces. But you played them, Sean, haven't you?
Quite a bit now, yeah.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, they should be out. But what we're waiting for at the moment is a range of buildings. I won't show them to you right now, but they're still in putty stage at the moment. We've got to get the buildings out in time for the rules release. Otherwise, I'll miss out on all the money we make from selling buildings. And there's going to be a range of 6 buildings, which is pretty good. So there's going to be a church. People wanted. I wasn't going to bother with church, but there's a church. There's a brick factory, a hacienda with an extended court, a peasant house. There's one with a bakery oven as well, so it's like pizzas, stuff like that, or tamales, whatever they make down there. But no, it's a scenery range. But we have got our free buildings on the website. You've seen those, haven't you? The free buildings, yeah. There's some free ones there as well. And the play sheet is already is it already on the website or not, Sean?
I don't know if it is. I'm not sure.
Because we tend to put out free play sheets for all the rules. So if you want to play a friend, you can say, just download the sheet for yourself, and I'll have the rules. It gives them access to the game, doesn't it? But yeah, we'll talk about that sometime. That's
definitely.
put up with that. All about Mexican Revolution. I can. I'll get you a different hat though. That's the trouble.
You'll have to get yourself a sombrero.
Yeah, it's going to cost money though, isn't it? Yeah, and a wild moustache. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I did see one music thing. Someone's called their range, instead of Pancho Villa, they called it Poncho Villa. You think that's spell checker, isn't it?
You've answered the one question I had, Martin, which was about the building. So thanks for that.
Oh, sorry. I do waffle on a bit, but that's the.
How about the personalities? I'm sure there's some personalities you've been fishing for, Sean.
Well, there will be some personalities in Mexican Revolution. Some ranges we don't do personalities because I hate the idea in World War II you're fielding Rommel, Montgomery, some field marshal in your platoon. But yeah, this one there'll be a Pancho Villa, Emiliano Zapata. There'll be maybe Angel or Angelina. There'll also be who's got one arm and now is it? Huerta might be there. We're going to do battlefield commanders rather than political. So Carranza probably won't be there, nor will Madero, is it? Yeah, the ones. But everyone ends up dead in the revolution anyway. No one makes it beyond it. Assassinated, killed, run over. Yeah, you think, do you want to be leader? Not really. That's right.
Everybody dies.
You want to be about third rank down from the top so you can change sides and no one notice it. Although I do recommend the what's the Robert Mitchum film? Is it Viva Zapata or no Villa Rides, isn't it?
Rides, yeah.
It's very Hollywood, but it's got great music by not Jean-Michel Jarre. Who's his father? Maurice Jarre, who wrote Dr. Zhivago tunes and all that. Terrific soundtrack and a good film because Robert Mitchum's a handsome fellow, isn't he?
Well, he was.
And you know Yul Brynner with his bald head, he plays Pancho Villa, and he's got a wig on, and you think that's a wig. That is Yul. That's definitely a wig. But it's there will be personalities, no airplanes, and possibly a train as well.
Villa Ride.
Yeah, that's it. Villa Ride. Yeah, really good. It's very Hollywood, but you can probably get it on YouTube, stuff like that. But the other much better one, I've lent you a copy, haven't I, Sean?
About to mention it.
What's his name? What's he called now?
Yeah, Banderas.
Yeah, Antonio Banderas, and it's called something. Villa is himself or something, or
he plays himself. I can't.
Yeah, but that's very, very good. Great battle scenes in it. And there is the Marlon Brando one, Viva Zapata. It's in black and white. And Marlon Brando spends most of the film just looking handsome and brooding. I love it when he does that. He's Colonel Kurtz. It's like, yeah, bless him. But no, it's not a well followed war. I'm not sure the range will be hugely popular. It's popular amongst the people who like that sort of thing. To quote Abraham Lincoln, yeah. But so it won't get widespread coverage, but I think we've got the market cornered.
Lovely. The ones that Sean painted out so far that I've seen, you know what I mean? They look
thank you. Yeah. Well, the range started last August, and it comes not a culmination, but the full fruition is this month with the rules and the buildings. And there's more to come. So it'll end up about 100 pack range. It'll be massive.
Excellent.
So, so that goes. Before I die, finish that race, Martin. Just one more figure.
One more to go. My last figure.
Yes, right. Oh, it's done. Anyway, Steve, I won't see you at the AK Day because you've organised your life badly.
Yes.
Sean, I'll see you at the AK Day, but I'll see you at Battle of Bosworth Field.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
And bring a horse if you can, because there's a guy looking for one. It's the guy it's the hunchback guy.
Martin, thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Always a pleasure to rattle on. Yeah, we'll meet again.
Brilliant.
Us three witches. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And the hat is just
With a hat,
Made
yeah,
everything
sombrero.
that was-
Yeah,
We want the sombrero.
that's considerable wealth, that indication, and as for the cod piece as well.
Yeah.
Don't stand up.
Gentlemen, you take care then.
All right,
Take
see you
care,
soon,
Mark.
Mark.
Good night. God bless.
Cheers.
Are we still
Right,
live?
there we go. We are still live at the moment. Just like to say a big thanks to everybody who listened, and everybody catches up at a later date. So, cheers for now.